I watched Stranger Things Season 5 teaser in 0.25 speed and uncovered new details that you probably missed. Let's start with the first scene. It opens with Steve transmitting through a radio while sitting inside a van, parked next to a building labeled 50,000 WSQK watts. This building actually exists in real life. It's a type of emergency broadcasting station used during citywide crises like blackouts or natural disasters. When the power goes out, these stations step in to broadcast emergency updates to civilians through radio waves, and that's exactly what's happening here. In the next scene, we see that Joyce is the one preparing to address the public, likely to update them on what's really going on in Hawkins. And surrounding her, we spot Nancy and Robin standing to her left, while on the right, Eleven and Will are seated next to each other. Then we get to see Lucas and Mike on their bikes, with Eleven standing behind them. Next up, we hear Mike saying,
"Burn commencing in 5, 4,
Now at first glance, you might assume that burn means fire, and while that could still be part of it, because after the countdown begins, we see military personnel torching the gates of the Upside Down. This burn appears to be the codename for a coordinated tactic, likely involving the team broadcasting something from the radio station. As Mike is counting down, Lucas is also counting on his fingers, clearly synchronizing something while looking through his goggles. Then comes a shot of what looks like a hidden shelter, but it's filled entirely with kids we haven't seen before. We cut to Hopper saying,
Come on.
But if we take a closer look, Hopper's in a completely different location. This could be a mismatched cut, something trailers often do to throw us off, or Hopper might be in the same location Lucas is watching through his goggles, meaning the entire plane is happening across multiple fronts at once. In the next shot, we see the group standing as the lights begin to flicker, and if you look closely on the left side of the shot, you'll notice that Will isn't okay. His eyes are closed and twitching in sync with the flickering lights. Moments later in the teaser, Will collapses to the ground, and it's clearly the same room, meaning this is all happening in a single continuous scene. This strongly hints that the burn might actually be causing a direct reaction in Will, similar to season 2 when Will was overwhelmed by pain while the soldiers torched the Upside Down. When the Netflix logo appears, you can spot 4 bikes entangled in the Upside Down tendrils, representing the original 4 bikes from season 1. Then, as this November title card appears, we can spot that the music playing in the background is actually Child in Time by Deep Purple, a song filled with themes of war, suffering, and lost innocence. In the next shot, we see Mike and Will riding bikes, and just behind them is either Eleven or possibly Holly, speeding toward what looks like a military outpost, and in the following shot, we get a clear look at a building that was once a church, but now it's been fully overtaken by the Upside Down and the gate has spread wide open. Next up, we catch Dustin at Eddie Munson's grave. The gravestone is defaced with the words "burn in hell," reflecting how the people of Hawkins still blame Eddie for Chrissy's death and the events of season 4. We then cut to Lucas sitting at Max's bedside, but this is a different hospital than the one we saw at the end of season 4. On the wall, you can even spot the painting Max drew back in season 4, and thanks to behind the scenes photos, we know that the tape that sits on the table is Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. In the next quick shot, we see Dustin, Steve, Jonathan, and Nancy outside Hawkins' lab. And then in this shot, we see Dustin, Lucas, Mike, and Will all gathered around the table, and below them is a map covered in markings, presumably the outline of their entire plane. It's unfortunately too blurry in the trailer to make out any specific details, but thanks to behind the scenes footage, we know this scene is more than just planning. This is where Will starts to sense something from the Upside Down drawing closer to him. The next scene shows Eleven straps a mask over her face, and if you look closely, the background matches Vecna's lair in the Upside Down. One of the next frames shows her jumping from a tree mid-air, and a Demogorgon lunges at her, showing us she's much more powerful now, as we can see her do something similar to a force jump in this scene located at the Hawkins junkyard. Then we cut to a quick shot of a soldier, one we've already seen in set photos, and the person behind him is Linda Hamilton's new character. Their suits don't match the typical military design. Instead, they look far more in line with the CIA outfits from season 1 and 4, and possibly tying her character to Dr. Brenner's old organization. And now, we see Eleven and Hopper standing in the Upside Down facing a massive mysterious wall structure, where we see an egg-like structure, and these look shockingly similar to the Demogorgon eggs teased back in season 2's early concept art. And if you zoom in, you can see something inside. Next, we see Jonathan and Nancy holding hands looking up as a massive portal opens above them. And this isn't like any gate we've seen before. This one is swirling like a storm, almost like a violent tear in reality itself, likely located inside Hawkins' lab. In the very next shot, we see Steve driving straight through it, heading into the Upside Down. Then comes a sequence where we spot Demo Dogs and Lucas holding Max, shielding her while crouched beside what looks like a nurse. We cut to soldiers firing their guns, which probably connects to Hopper and Eleven ducking for cover. This scene lines up perfectly with the official official description for episode 1, which states the military is hunting 11, presumably seeing her as a threat. That also connects directly to a scene where Hopper tosses grenades behind them in an effort to create a distraction. We then jump to the next scene where we spot Joyce, Will, Erica, Robin, and the new character Derek Turnbow, the son of the farmer who owns the lane they're on. This moment likely takes place during the episode titled The Turnbow Trap, which, as the name suggests, hints at a planned ambush, possibly to trap a Demogorgon. That theory checks out when we look back at a shot from the previous trailer where we saw fake military dummies lying on the ground. After that, we get Karen Wheeler and Holly hiding inside a pool filled with soap bubbles, possibly trying to avoid something, but judging by what comes next, it didn't work. In set photos, we see Holly walking alone with none other than Henry Creel, aka Vecna himself, and that's where the glitched out episode title, The Vanishing Off, starts to make sense. It could very well be the vanishing of Holly Wheeler. Next, we see Robin standing face to face with that monstrous mind flayer-like creature, the same one we last saw trapped in Russia during season 4, but if we connect it to this later scene from the teaser, we can see she's there with Murray, and behind them we can spot a Bradley's Big Buy delivery truck, a clever callback to season 1 where 11 stole Eggos from that exact store. In the next shot, we see Nancy washing blood off her hands. It looks like she was desperately trying to save someone who didn't make it. Given how emotional the moment is, it's likely someone close to her. My theory, it might be Steve, in a leaked recording from the same scene we saw in the previous trailer, which I obviously cannot show for legal reasons. You can hear Will yelling run, and he's yelling it at Steve. But it could also point to Jonathan, especially because we later see Dustin crying and hugging Steve, which could mean Steve survives while someone else close to the group doesn't. Either Jonathan dies or Dustin is shaken by seeing Eddie as a vampire, speculated because of his connection to the D&D game where a character named Kaz, who is bitten by bats, becomes a vampire. The next shot is intense. Will is screaming and Vecna is standing right beside him. This moment actually lines up with the last trailer where we heard Will yelling run, and if you look closely at his eyes in that scene, you can actually spot Vecna's hand reflected in it. Then we see two soldiers standing near an exploding sign, and if you freeze the frame, you can make out the word Turnbow written on it. That ties it directly to the Turnbow Trap episode, hinting that something goes terribly wrong during the group's attempt to lure or ambush a creature on Derek Turnbow's farm, or this sign could be the trap itself. Next, a car crashes through a fence at a high speed, and behind the wheel is Steve, and based on set photos, we know Dustin is sitting next to him, and in the back seat are Nancy and Jonathan. And then we cut to 11 entering Hopper's cabin in the woods, with Nancy right behind her holding a gun she acquired from the previous season. Both of them look completely stunned, like something inside caught them off guard. Then we get a shot of a Demogorgon leaping forward, but here's the twist. It's not the Demogorgon doing the damage. According to the behind the scene photos, it's actually Vecna who takes out almost all the soldiers in this moment. In the very next scene, we see Mike along with two new characters, Debbie and Thomas, plus Derek Turnbow. But what really catches the eye is Will lying unconscious on the floor, and Joyce and the rest of the group staring. It feels like this moment connects directly back to the earlier shot where Vecna had his hand over Will's face, meaning this shot could be happening before that scene happened. And yeah, Vecna is back. When he appears again, he deflects the flamethrower blast, and his appearance is noticeably different from season 4. He's thinner, possibly from being burned at the end of season 4, leaving him scarred and weakened, but maybe also more dangerous than ever since, because he seems to be more agile than before. That flamethrower blast might be Will using his powers. If we connect the dots, there are several hints in the show. Back in season 1 during the D&D game, Lucas suggests that Will should cast a fireball. Later, Joyce even asks Will if he needs a fireball, and he responds, yeah, to burn them to a crisp, but we also see that Will collapsed in the teaser the same way 11 does when she pushes her powers too far. The idea that Will unleashed a hidden power in that moment is definitely a strong possibility. But hey, before this theory gets smashed into the upside down, like this video like it's an Eggo waffle, and click here to telepathically hop to another mystery we're decoding faster than 11 flipping a vein.